is raw, unadulterated truth. I am committed to delivering news without compromise. Hard facts as we know them, when we know them, and how they affect you. Every Monday through to Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. This will be your most authentic news experience starting now on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
And talk we will. It's 5 minutes gone past the 5 o'clock hour. Welcome to Hard Facts. I'm Mary Okon, and it's time for us to talk about the big hard fact for today. And we're taking a walk just across the pond to Bayelsa State. Yes, we know that the off-cycle elections are beginning. It's going to be happening in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa State. But worthy of note is that Bayelsa State has been, whether we like it or not, a hotspot when it comes to elections, just as Imo also has been. But for Bayelsa State, the major concern and why we're having conversation is that INEC has said that it would transmit the gubernatorial polls manually. Emphasis on the word manually. Yes, and then there are other stories that are coming out of Bayelsa State, and of course there are concerns about security. There's a trust deficit as to whether there will be free, fair and credible elections, even though INEC has assured Nigerians that it will do everything within its power for that to happen. But my guest is joining us to give some more background to this conversation. He's been here before and he's here again today. Olufemi Lawson is the Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability, CPA. Mr. Lawson, it's so good to have you join us. Good evening.
Good evening, Marianne.
Thank you for joining us. As an accountability CSO and as a good governance advocate, why is Bayelsa of such importance to you?
Well, it is important because our organization is privileged to be one of the organizations that have observed election in the states of the Federation, and I've also observed the off-season elections in Bayelsa State over the years. Before Kogi and Imo joined the off-season election cycle, Bayelsa have been conducting off-season election for some period of time now. Election, just like I've observed across other states of Nigeria. More so, in the last 6 months, we have been involved in some form of advocacy in Bayelsa State on why there must be peaceful election, because we have been actively involved in the process in the state, like I said, and we know what elections used to mean in Bayelsa State in the past. And that's why we may not, as Nigerians, wait until November when the election comes, or when politicians get to the heat of the campaign before we begin to sensitize the citizens, before we begin to engage the citizens on the need for a peaceful election. So we're doing that in Bayelsa for a couple of months. And just like you said, Bayelsa used to be a very odd bed when there are elections in the past. But I think this time around, there will be a little bit of difference, especially when you look at what the states now look like compared to the past, possibly because of election.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, for those who have followed the history of Bayelsa and elections in Bayelsa, you realize that whenever election is coming in Bayelsa, it is always like a war zone. You find opponent, political party, supporters having series of clashes. In actual fact, in December 2015, one of the worst cases of election violence in Nigeria happened in Bayelsa State, when the then former governor, Siake Dixon, and the then former governor also, Mr. Timi Silva, who coincidentally is on the ballot in this election too, were the major candidates in that election.
He's not.
In that election,
I'd like to correct that. He's been disqualified from participating in this election by the court. Yes, in case you did not know about that, he's been disqualified.
Yes, I've just read that the party is going to appeal that case. So, like I cited as an example, that of course he has been on the in this race up to this decision of the court, which came out yesterday. And for those who have observed the election in Bayelsa and elections where Mr. Silva has participated, and some politicians, you realize that it is usually a keenly contested race, it is usually contest, that brings a lot of apprehension. And that is why the reported case of election was not a lot of groups which condemn the violence against the people, where lives and properties were lost in number. And that is why we took it upon ourselves about 6 months ago to move to Bayelsa and begin to let politicians know that election is not war. And the people will be allowed to choose their leader in peaceful way. And I attributed what we are saying in Bayelsa today to leadership. And he said, what do I mean? Leadership in the sense that we realized, having been on the ground, that the incumbent administration in Bayelsa State, while facing whatever promises it has made to the people in delivering on the dividends of democracy, like Nigerians used to call it, it has also deliberately institutionalized the culture of peace. Communities where there used to be hostilities ahead of election, there are communities where people became so divided that even physical bridges were broken in the past because of elections in Bayelsa State. So the incumbent administration in the state have successfully done enough in mending these fences, in building harmonious relationship, and that is why Bayelsa, if you follow, has not been in the news, unlike what it used to be in the past for all cases of militancy violence and all sort of tension that used to be attributed to election in the state. But that nonetheless, we strongly believe that the days ahead, which is still about 30-something days to this election, is enough for politicians to cause mayhem. And that is why we must continue to insist that elections are not war, and Nigerians must be allowed, in a peaceful and democratic manner, choose their leaders without any intimidation or harassment by desperate politicians.
Still staying with this issue of violence or intimidation or, electoral violence, as much as, we educate people, voters, and, it's not a do or die affair. But politicians also have to not just be notified, because I believe that everyone who's running for an election or running for an office should definitely know that it's not supposed to be do or die affair. But then, of course, the opposite is the case. We see the signing of peace pacts. It's become a routine thing that people who run for office do just before the elections. And half the time, these pacts are not necessarily followed. Is there a possibility for people like you who are advocating for good governance to maybe, I don't know, because I guess I'm asking, can there be something that would one way or the other dissuade these politicians and their followers from, perpetrating these acts of violence, whether directly or indirectly? Because half the time you can't really point any politician who's really asked someone to go and grab a ballot box or beat people up. But the measures that have been put out to stop these acts of violence, how viable have they been?
Thank you so much for that fantastic question. It is a question that we have also been asking a number of times. And one singular thing is responsible. The Nigerian state, despite all concerns, just like you have raised now, have not been able to criminalize election violence in Nigeria. People perpetrate violence during election, they walk away, they walk free on the street. In actual fact, they have the audacity to even return to ask for the mandate of the people in subsequent elections. Let me give you an instance. After the unprecedented election violence burst in Bayelsa in December 2015, the government initiated a judicial commission of inquiry into the violence which led to killings, destruction, that communities were sacked, and all sort of things. A well-constituted judicial panel sat for months and indicted politicians. The report of that committee was presented to the state government in Bayelsa. A lot of persons, including politicians who are now contesting elections, including the now candidate of the APC who was just disqualified, were indicted in that judicial commission of inquiry report. But did you know what? The states keep acting impotent. The states keep behaving as if nothing has happened. Despite the report of a properly constituted judicial panel, the state has not been able to prosecute a single individual for their involvement in such heinous crime. Not only that, various organizations that participated in the election, that monitored the election, including INEC, came out with reports of violence in that election. Security agencies, police led by the Deputy Inspector General of Police, witnessed what happened in Bayelsa. All of us, they all saw what happened. People were arrested for being involved in that, unprecedented level of violence. But a lot of those people, if not all of those people who were arrested, are back on the streets, belonging to one political party or the other today. And until we have a properly constituted court that will try perpetrators of violence during elections, we may not be seeing an end to this culture of violence anytime soon. Because politicians perpetrate violence, they walk away, during the next election, some with some audacity, seeking the mandate of the same people whom they have terrorized, whom they have destroyed their property, whom they have killed their relatives. And that is why this culture remains persistent. And just like you said, until government begin to take this as a serious crime, perpetrators will not, stop from engaging in action in this kind of violence during our elections.
Can I ask another question, a follow-up? You said until government, but if I'm not in any way also insinuating that government benefits from violence, but if I'm a beneficiary of election violence and this has worked for me over time, why would I want to put an end to it?
Well, so for government at various levels, in some states, some of these things are aided by even incumbent government. In some cases, some of them are aided by supporters of the government. Some of them are also aided by some compromised security agents. But what must be superior is the will of the states. If the country, today we are governed by law, it's a democracy. That is not whether anybody likes it or not. If you lose the election in Nigeria today, you cannot in any way exceed the tenure of office by the time you have voted, whether you are the incumbent or not. If we have the law in place, a time will come that we get government that are sincere in their commitment to end violence in our elections, and there will be something to work upon. But because there's practically nothing to work with, there's practically no, apart from some criminal laws that are not effective, so to put it, about disturbance of public peace and whatever. But we must have specific laws to deal with people who use election to perpetrate violence, who use election to intimidate and harass people. And that is one way we can come out of it, irrespective of how sympathetic one government or the other is to perpetrators of this act.
Let's move away from that, because we could spend all day talking about this issue of electoral violence and how it's not just a recurrent in Nigeria, but on the African continent. We've also seen it play out. As we speak today, the people of Liberia are at the polls. They're casting the votes. And one of the messages that is being preached right now is, say no to electoral violence. And this is detail for Zimbabwe and every other country that we've seen on the African continent that's, has had elections. But let's move away from that. Let's talk about the fact that Oboefanga, who is the Independent National Electoral Commission's resident electoral officer in Bayelsa State, is that the election results will be manually transmitted. It doesn't sound like it's anything new. Again, look at the case of the presidential election tribunals. Why are people like you and, the rest of people who are agitating against the CSOs, saying no or, rebuffing INEC? Why is it an issue? You saw what the PPT verdict was. Well,
for us, the PPT verdict is not superior yet to our constitution. We have our electoral law, and it is impressive to note that immediately that REC made that statement, the INEC at the national level promptly reacted to it, that elections are not going to be manually collated, transmitted in Bayelsa. And the following day, the REC has also been made to retract the earlier statement. And it is because immediately that statement was made, civil society organizations and stakeholders came out en masse to condemn it and remind INEC that the question of electronic transmission of result and accreditation is not on the basis of the wish alone of INEC. There are already issues of law. They are already stipulated in our law.
But is
the
there
Electoral Act already captured it.
Well, but is there anywhere in the Electoral Act that expressly says that results have to be uploaded into the IREV? Is there anywhere because this is also the argument of that tribunal.
No, you see, the mix-up people are having is that collation, transmission of result is not collation of result.
Definitely.
But in some cases, you don't even have the entire result transmitted. But what the electronic transmission has done, I was in Edo State, the first major state election where this tool was used. Subsequently, in fact, we had the first test run in Nasarawa State constituency election. We came to Edo State, then we went to Ondo after. And I can tell you what this does is that it gives a clear direction or picture into where whatever is coming from the collation center may likely look like during election. For instance, in Edo, at 7 p.m. on the day of that election, we've seen results from about 75% of polling units across the state. A new election will not be declared on the basis of 75%, but on the basis of the entire, polling unit in the state.
Yes.
But the fact that citizens already see about 75% of the result opens the window for transparency. It's not difficult for somebody somewhere to bring results from less than 25% to manipulate, an entire process. So for us, it's a tool for transparency, not necessarily a tool for computation of result. And IREV is still being used. It was used in the last election, even though there are issues about the fact that a lot of polling units were not uploaded. But that will not stop INEC from still using it, because it's a matter of what is already prescribed by law. Transmission of result, not collation of result. So result will be collated using the instrumentality of the return officer at the world, local government state collation centers. But the transparency of the process is enhanced by the fact that from your polling unit, you can upload your result and everybody anywhere can see it. So eventually, when we have collation and there's a difference, it is easy to contest or challenge the outcome of such elections.
Finally, let me just, because we have to go on a quick break, let's talk about the terrain in Bayelsa, which is very, very tricky. I've been to Bayelsa once in my life, and I don't think I want to go back. Because at the time I went, you had only one road, one straight road. So how will this terrain play a role in the, movement of sensitive materials? Because we've seen this happen in Lagos, the past election, the governorship and, presidential elections. It took a while for INEC officials to get to these polling units on time. Some didn't get there at all. Some communities in Lagos and Magboro had to take their cars, go to INEC collation centers to pick some of these officials. So again, does the terrain in Bayelsa also, will it play a role in, conducting of this free, fair and credible elections that we seek?
Yes, for a predominantly riverine state, it has always played a role. But what INEC does, which I think INEC will also do this time around, is that INEC prepares ahead and ensure deployment of sensitive election materials and of personnel days ahead of election. Unlike in the cities like Lagos and some other parts of the country, where you can just wake up 7 a.m. and move straight from INEC to your various election centers. In Bayelsa, it is different. There are communities in Bayelsa where you have to travel 3-4 hours through the water from the state capital. So that practically becomes impossible to be done on election day. So what INEC does is to make sure that days ahead, materials are deployed, and on the day before the election, all other sensitive materials are deployed with the support of the marine security across the state. And it has been recorded that there's virtually no way in Bayelsa State where elections don't hold during elections, except in those cases where terror unleashed on the people and they have to leave their community. But ultimately, INEC has always been prepared logistic requirement to get people in the riverine areas vote during elections in Bayelsa.
All right, Olufemi Lawson is of the CPA. He's talking to us here live from Bayelsa, of course, about the elections that are going to be happening. But we'll take a quick break, Mr. Lawson. When we come back, we should have questions for you. David is here with some information for us. Dave, go ahead. News and sports radio station, and the program is Hard Fact. I'm Mary Okon, and we've been looking at the up-cycle elections in Bayelsa State. Olufemi Lawson has been speaking with us via Zoom, and we've been looking at some of the issues that have been raised, of course, gearing up for the elections, concerns about violence, the credibility of the elections, INEC doing what it has promised to do, and of course, gaining the trust of the average voter and making sure that the elections are generally peaceful and credible. Well, Mr. Lawson, before we went on that break, I did say that we were going to allow Lagos into this conversation to ask a lot of questions, especially in terms of, the key players in this election. The fact, again, that a lot of people would question the people who keep running for the office in Bayelsa State. Bayelsa State is one of the most richest states in this country. But then when you look at the developmental strides for every government that has come and gone, and the likes of Alamesea, James Onanefe Ibori, and the list is endless, including the Timmy Pray Silvers of this world, there's nothing compared. Nothing can compare to the abysmal failure, to put it lightly, that state has, experienced in the past. And some people would even say that our former president, Goodluck Jonathan, who was a deputy governor at the time, that this also, one way or the other, would be an embarrassment of sorts, that a state like Bayelsa has not experienced the kind of development that it should. What do you think plays a major role in the backwardness that Bayelsa State has experienced over the years?
Thank you. I think from Alamesea to Dr. Jonathan to Tinepre Silva, then Seriaki Dixon, then to the incumbent administration, the state has continued to strive for development. Considering the peculiarity of the terrain of, this a state that is majorly creeks and riverine, only few areas upland. But unfortunately, just like you said, the state is rich, in mineral resources, one of the largest deposits of our crude oil. States get a lot of allocation from crude sale from the country. But if you look at what the state has made in terms of resources, between 1999 and now, which is not commensurate to the level of development that you can witness in that state. I've been visiting Bayelsa for almost 20 years, for one reason or the other. But I can tell you that perhaps this is like the first time that the state is beginning to see some transformation. I don't know how the incumbent government is trying to do that, because outside Yenagua, the state capital, there are only few places you can connect by road in the whole of Bayelsa State. Mm-hmm. You have to travel through the water. Places that ordinarily should be like 30 minutes drive by road, you have to travel through the water for 3-4 hours in some cases. Mm. But currently, as we speak, the 3 senatorial districts in the state are being connected together by road for the first time in the history of that state. The roads cannot connect the 3 senatorial districts of the state together. The communities that are major, that are key to the economic activities of the state, like Brass, one of the biggest economic potential, not just even for Bayelsa State, or for Nigeria, is there abandoned because there's no link except to travel by water. As we speak now, a road is being constructed from Nembe, the land, through the creeks, to Brass. It is not, has never been done in that state. The southern part of the state, the southern Niger, which is perhaps one of the biggest local governments in the state, in terms of population, in terms of resources, in terms of even human capacity. Now it is being connected now to the state capital for the first time in history. So I think the incumbent administration is trying to do something different from the past, because when you look at that state in the past, there are only few things to justify the humongous resources that the state have made over the last 20-something years. But I think the people also have to begin to demand for their leaders what they actually desire as a people. Yeah. You cannot just allow people to be elected and leave them to enjoy their lives in the government house at your own expense without making them or forcing them to do what you want. And if they refuse to do it, you vote them out.
Okay. All right. Well, Lagos, I want to bring you into the conversation. Join us right now, 0700 993 993 993. We're looking at Bayelsa elections, security concerns, and, of course, the conduct of free, fair, and credible polls. Our guest has been speaking to us via Zoom. Olufemi Lawson is the Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability, and he's been giving us some background into all the things that people need to know before that election. 0700 993 993 993. That's 0700 993 993 993. Have we learned our lessons from the previous elections, and will INEC better its duties in giving us free, fair, and credible elections as these off-cycle elections begin, even in Bayelsa State? If you're a lady, call 01-465-7190. And if you're from Bayelsa State and you're listening to the show, feel free to join the conversation. Hello, welcome. Apologies, do call us back if that was you. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts. What's happening? Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Hello.
Good evening.
My name is Yusuf.
Please turn off your radio.
Yusuf, they have me reducer. Yusuf.
Walk away from that place, please.
Hello.
I'm going to tell you one more time. Walk away,
Yusuf,
or I'll take on
the radio, please.
All right. Well, when you and Yusuf have reduced the radio, please call me back. Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Turn off your radio. I just finished telling the last caller.
It's off. This is calling from Odogbolo, Ogun State.
Go ahead.
When are they conducting the election? Is it this month or next month?
Next month. It's in November.
Okay, that is how they promised us during the past elections, that they are going to conduct it in a very perfect way, that no wahala, no fight, no listen. But at the end of everything, there is fight everywhere. And the court now say what they do is right. I hope the thing will not repeat itself in this present one they are going to conduct. We are watching them because we may think that 2027 is very far away, but it's almost here with us. So let them show us an example so that we can see the managing to trust them. That is what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
All right, Eze, thank you very much for calling. I appreciate it. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, welcome to Hard Facts. Good evening. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Lucky Obegu.
All right, Lucky.
Yes, I'm calling from Via here, but I'm from River State, very close to Bayelsa.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Bayelsa State, let me not say, the former governor is a very greedy man. He don't want anybody to sit there. He has been governor before. He was there before Jonathan
Sorry,
left.
which governor are you talking about? Be specific, please.
The one that is contesting, they want to contest, Dixon.
Okay, well, he's been disqualified as we speak.
There's no other person in Bayelsa except him. I don't know. People are very greedy, honestly. There's no other person that will go there except him. You see, in this government, he resigned. I want to contest. So there's no other person in Bayelsa except him. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for calling. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts. Oh, apologies. Do call us back if that was you. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts. 0700 993 993 993. That's the number for you to call. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts.
Good evening to you, action lady.
Good evening.
Look, where commendation is needed, for me, I will give it. I give to that court that disqualified that man. That Timi pray, save in the color. Like that last caller said, is it only 1 kilo day gone? Kilo day from Minister of Petroleum, from governor. You want to go back there again? And for the election, look, Miriam, they are just doing this, so it will not look as if they didn't conduct the election. Because the way INEC is handling things, I just pray for God to see us through. I'm telling you, my sister. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Grace, for calling. I appreciate it. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts. Good evening. Turn off your radio, please.
Good afternoon to you, Miriam.
Yes. Good afternoon.
My name is Prince Wires, calling you from Amuwodofi.
Go ahead, Prince.
You see, that court have done the right thing. Even though the court did not give judgment against a former minister for petroleum, I, for one, I don't want that man to become any governor of that state. He, as a minister, he failed woefully. He was there where they take 20% of our money to Dangote refinery. He was there as a minister, does nothing. I want to go back as a governor. For me, whether court go against him or did not go against him, I don't want him to win the governor of that state. It's a failure. Good evening to you, my dear.
All right, Prince, thank you very much for calling. Someone here on WhatsApp says, Sam from Lekki says, so with the disqualification of Timi Praise Silva as gubernatorial candidate for the APC, considering the time frame, can APC produce another candidate for the Bayelsa election? Would you care to respond, Mr. Lawson?
Well, the window for substitution of candidates is closed. INEC cannot substitute candidate for anybody except in the case of death. But when it is not the case of death, no political party can substitute candidates 30 days to election.
Okay. All right, let's take a few more calls. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts.
Good evening.
Good evening. What's your name, sir? Where are you calling from?
I am Engineer Tony Eddy from Okwapo, Badagry.
All right, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I want to talk about the People Silver, the man that is trying to contest that court disqualified.
He's been disqualified, yes.
Yeah, disqualified, I know. I am happy for the disqualification because he's not the only Bayelsa person that will be contesting. Other people were there. He was governor 2 times. He was sworn in 2 times. And he was, this APC, he was a minister of finance, a minister of, minister of the petroleum. And now he wants to contest again. Why is he the only person in Bayelsa State? There is no other person to contest. And I want to talk on INEC.
Okay.
Please, INEC should, hello?
I'm listening. Go ahead, please.
Talk about INEC. INEC should repair what they have spoiled before. Because the whole people, we are hoping that this last election will be free and fair. But INEC, they don't do rightly. But now we want them to use it and to right the wrong, to right the right that they did wrong before, so that people will applaud them. The whole world is watching.
All right.
Three elections they are going to contest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling. I appreciate it. I'll take one quick call and then we'll wrap things up here. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts. Please turn off your radio.
Yes, sir.
Turn off your radio. I'll tell you one more time.
Okay, yes, it's all right.
Go ahead.
Alex Akibe on the line.
Ahigbe, go ahead.
Is this under constitution that after somebody must have governed for two consecutive 8 years, that he can come back for the 3rd time? Is it under constitution like that?
All right, Mr. Lawson, care to respond?
Can you come again with that question?
She's asking that, is it constitutional for after someone has run for 2 tenures, is it constitutional for them to come again a 3rd time? She's talking about Siraki Dixon. Timi Praise Silva, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, the Constitution only permits 2 terms of 4 years each. And the issue that has been taken to court for determination by that APC member is the fact that if Timi Praise Silva is allowed to contest this election, he will be sworn in as governor for the 3rd time. Remember when former President Jonathan was nominated as a running mate to the late President Yar'Adua, Timi Praise Silva took over from him. Then he contested for the 2nd time to make it 5 years that he had been governor of Bayelsa State. So running election again for another 4 years would mean that he would have served more than the 8 years guaranteed by the Constitution as governor of Bayelsa State if he wins. And that is why those parties have gone to court to contest his qualification for this election. So he cannot be governor for more than 2 times.
All right, perfect. I don't know if I have the time to, but let's close with this. What should the average person who lives here and wants to go back to Bayelsa for the elections? I'm giving you 20 seconds to respond to this. Look forward to.
Well, they should look forward to a peaceful election, and they should continue to join the advocacy for a peaceful election. The government of Bayelsa State is doing a lot from what we saw on ground in promoting peace. And I think that is very key to this election. INEC and security agencies must also work with the state to ensure that there's a peaceful election and so that all citizens can come and vote freely without intimidation.
Well, thank you very much. Right bang on time. Olufemi Lawson is the executive director for the Center for Public Accountability. Thank you so much, Mr. Lawson, for being here. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure.
All right. And there you have it, Lagos, on the Big Hard Facts today. But I will not leave without reminding you. Tomorrow, again, I will call out those LASMA numbers, the hotlines you needed, so that if you are faced with any of these issues with LASMA officials, you can call the LASMA hotline. I'll just give one quickly because I'm out of time. 081 005 65860. I'll take it again. 081 005 65860. Tomorrow, of course, is a brand new day. We will be talking about other issues, of course, here on Hard Facts. My name is Mary Ann Okon. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. MIMIEYO. Or better still, just search for Mary Ann Okon everywhere else and send me a DM.
With some small stretch mark, they try shook face on my body. So when I can't get the lay, na race
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info 9.3. Follow us on Twitter, Nigeria Info FM, on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99